Jay, where are you at?
Hello.
All right, everybody. We have Shalie Dheensaw, head coach at UVic, joining us now for a quick little 15-minute interview. She just got appointed the head coach of the team not too long ago. I believe that makes you the youngest coach in the CIS, correct, Shay?
As far as I know, that's what I'm hearing.
There we go. Take it. Shay has the distinct privilege of having played for Paul Langford and I on a provincial team a long time ago. And then she was so impressed by the coaching that she decided she wanted to be a head coach for the rest of her life. So you can thank Paul for that, everybody. So Shay, tell us a little bit about where you got started, what school you went to, high school, how that whole thing went down. Give us a little rundown.
I wish I had Paul's background, or however he did that, where I can just have a background of myself coaching. Playing wise, I was born and raised on the island. So I went to Claremont Secondary School. And from there, that's where I did Basketball BC, did some of the youth programs when Basketball Canada started out with the cadet program. And I think I was the first or second year to do that. From there, I went to Washington State and played down there for 4 years. I actually ended up getting hurt my senior year. Down there, Pac-12, the conference play starts kind of end of December, and I actually got hurt only 4 games into conference. So it was pretty early. It was pretty weird. Not something you definitely ever expect to happen, but I think that's what kind of thrusted me into coaching. I had really positive experiences across the board. Whether it was lots of playing time, little playing time, whatever it was, I always had really good coaches that influenced me in the best of ways. And when I went down south, I think it's no secret that the NCAA can be done positively or it can be done negatively. And that's the hardest part of recruiting, is kind of navigating what coaches are doing it right and what coaches aren't. And I found a coach, June Doherty. She was at the University of Washington. She was at Washington State when I was there, and she kind of did things the right way. And when I got injured, she let me travel. She brought me in on the coaches' meetings. She kind of taught me the ins and outs of how they scout, how they do things, the dynamics of the NCAA in terms of a coaching staff, because it's a little bit different down there. And she just, she really exposed herself as a person. And, when you're a player, no matter what the level is, you only see your coaches as coaches. You don't really see them as much more. And she exposed herself as, a person and who she was. And I think her true values and as to why she coaches really came out in that moment to me. And that's really for the student athletes and, me at the time. And I think you got to give back to the game in some way. And a lot of people like to give back in terms of player development and skill development, which is so important, especially now. But I wanted to give back a playing or a coaching and player experience that I got that not a lot of people seem to get. And that's kind of what got me into coaching. And I was lucky enough to be sought after by Mike Neighbors, who was at the University of Washington at the time. And he offered me a graduate assistant spot, which is basically lowest man on the totem pole you can be on any staff. You're doing everything and nothing all at the same time, and you're full-time staff while you're also a full-time student getting your master's degree. So that was probably the best experience in coaching that I'll ever get. Definitely not something I ever want to go back to, but I think it's important to be in. And it was a once in a lifetime experience. I got to, work and do individual workouts with people like Kelsey Plum. I'm not sure if you guys even know the name Chantal Osahor. I got to be around a coaching staff where one of the assistants is now at UConn, Jasmine Lister, and Morgan Valley, who played at UConn, and she was teammates with Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird. So they were in and out of our offices, and it was just an incredible experience for me. I don't think I'll ever experience that again. So it was definitely an amazing way to kind of start your coaching career. And From there, I ended up back at Washington State after I got my master's, and was a video coordinator there. And there were some things that went on that allowed me to kind of elevate up into an assistant coaching spot and start my recruiting and start doing stuff like that. And my coach actually ended up getting fired, which was, I think, probably really important for me to go through early on, because down there it's kind of the nature of the game, and for it to happen to me so early and see what happens is important, unfortunately. And I think you guys that are going through the recruiting process, it's important to know that coaches can kind of come and go. So it's important to know that even though you love the coaches and you want to find a coach that works for you, invested with those coaches, you got to really love the team, because those coaches can come and go as much as they please. And because she ended up getting fired, the staff ended up kind of not being re-signed, and that's where I ended up back with Danny, which is a bit of a 180 for me, because she started her coaching career when she was about my age, and she was coaching me in grade 8 with my dad. So I've known her for quite some time. She coached my sister doing provincial team, and then we kind of looped back in me being her assistant coach for the past 2 years. And that's kind of a quick summary of how I kind of got here.
That's very cool. Out of curiosity, what did you take in school when you were down at Washington State? What was your undergrad, and then what did you do for your master's?
I did human development as my undergrad with that's back when I thought that I was going to come back right away, and then I didn't. I was going to get my elementary ed certificate when I moved back, and then I ended up getting my master's in a program. It's called Intercollegiate Athletic Leadership. It branches off into higher ed. You can kind of go in the administrative route, which kind of teaches you the ins and outs of the NCAA for athletic directors, for marketing, for management, or it takes you the coaching route, which is obviously the route that I chose to go.
Very cool. And so you got the job just recently at UVic, and I'm assuming you put together a little bit of your coaching staff. Who have you picked up, and tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so we hired Rob Poole right away. He actually was, he's from Alberta. He's been kind of all over, both on the men's side and the women's side. His most recent he was a part of McEwen when he actually took the program from college to youth sport. And him and I just kind of clicked right away. It's going to be a bit of a shift for our returning athletes, because Danny is very offensive minded. I'm very defensive minded. So it's going to be funny for the returners. I think for some of our incoming girls, they'll be lucky, but he was very much like that too. And he understands the value in what we have at UVic and the value in the system I see us playing. And quite honestly, when this job opened up, I knew coaches would be throwing themselves at the job, because our returning group of athletes are just kind of incredible individuals. And as athletes, I always joke that any one of those girls, you can throw them a volleyball or, a lacrosse stick, and they're going to figure it out in 3 months. They're just kind of natural athletes. So Rob and I have really connected. And then I've also asked a couple of alumni, one in particular, Lynn Montgomery Stinson, who's
Right, Becker.
Stellies, yeah, and she was an alumni at UVic, so she's going to be helping out.
Fantastic. Tell us about some of the kids that are coming back. Who are your kind of lead players? What do they do? Tell us about them.
Yeah, well, the one that I don't think most people notice, but I am most excited about long-term is one of yours, Carson Look. I think there's not another Carson in the league. She has incredible touch. You can't really teach touch. She always wants to learn. She's adaptable. She wants to grow. Like, she just has the best of attitudes. And then Anthony and I always joke, she has that softball touch that, like, the girl could be doing a skyhook from the 3-point line and it goes in, and it makes no sense, but it doesn't matter if it's going in. So I'm excited for her. She has a year of experience under her belt. I think the jump from high school to U Sport for post is definitely difficult. And I think she rose against Summer Maskowicz when we played Sask, who ended up being U Sport first team All Canadian. So she scored like 13 points against her or something. And I think it was a huge insight as to what we've seen from the beginning, and she finally got to saw. And then Tana Pankratz, I think any BC person knows about her. She's a stud, and she's grown as a person. She's grown as an athlete, as a teammate. She's really, really coming along, and the goal was to put some strength on her. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that this summer, but hopefully we get there. And Ashlyn Day is another one from the interior. Kelowna, she's an outstanding teammate, outstanding athlete. Again, she's just someone that you can give her, a rugby, she's going to figure it out. And I might be biased, but obviously we like Marissa a lot. She's my sister. She might not be returning. She has a potential to redshirt, but she just has a leadership skill that you can't really find. You can't really teach. It's just innate in her. And hopefully we have her back. But if we don't, I think it's a nice place for people to kind of grow and kind of fill the gap there.
Yeah, very cool. Actually having the opportunity to coach your sister at university. You hear of parents coaching their kids sometimes, but actually having the opportunity to coach your sister, you don't hear that too often. So I've always been a fan of hers, so that'd be cool to watch. With Carson, it was funny because she had her best games against the best team in your league this year. So that was kind of cool. I'm excited to see her. Hopefully she can, she's got the right, her coach is a center and she's a center. So it'll be a good opportunity for her to take her game to the next level. Now, you've had a pretty good recruiting class coming in. Why don't you tell us about the kids you got coming in for this coming year?
Yeah, we have Nicole coming from Kelowna. She, I think, is going to fit in nicely with, we're really shifting our mindset on defense. I think defense overall in Can West, in youth sport, is a real, I don't think it's a focus for a lot of programs, and it's going to be a focus for us. I think if you want an answer to a straight line drive on how to get to nationals, it's be a lockdown defensive team. I think when you look at us and you look at our stats, scoring is not an issue for us. But defending is an issue for everyone if you don't focus on it. It's not usually people's favorite area, but Nicole, I think it is. And some of you guys have probably played against her. She, when she's on, and when she's focused. And academically, she's definitely no issue. She's smart. She's really intuitive on and off the court. Mimi Sagu, she's from Alberta. She goes, she did the provincial team. She goes to St. Albert's. Her and a girl named Micah, who's from Calgary, they're both they're laser focused, and, the skill's not all there yet, but it's just their attitude and their effort and what they, when they come to workouts, the kind of attentiveness that they bring, that I think is why we're so excited about both of them.
Let me just stop you right there. I think that's a good message for our kids right there. So, they're two of the better athletes that you'll see probably in the country. But the thing that she's most impressed about them is their laser focus, right? So that's something for you guys to remember when you're working out with your high school coaches. If we ever get going with our team, if you can really lock in and you can get the most out of it, it's gonna make a big difference. So keep going, Jay. Sorry.
Yeah, I think both of those two are a good example, and also Carson's a really good example of, university coaches don't want you to have everything. They don't want you to be able to do everything, because if you're able to kind of do everything by grade 11, grade 12, you're peaking, at your best in high school, which it doesn't happen all the time, and it's not realistic, and it's not what coaches want. They want to see the potential that's there, and they also want to see the untapped potential, and that's the only way you can see the untapped potential is to bring that attitude, that effort, the biggest upside. I personally think she's going to be first team All-Canadian. She can be rookie of the year if she wants to, and it's just because she's not afraid to fail. She's not afraid to go after, the number one post. She's not afraid to go after the number one point guard. Like, she's just not scared, and that lack of, fear is kind of what keeps you in that box, and she's able to step outside that box. So she's, I'm really excited about her. And then we have Abby Becker, who's from Parksville, so an island kid, which is exciting for a lot of us. And she has had a tough go, I think, health-wise, and with basketball, it's been a lot of ups and downs. So she's just recently kind of found her love again for basketball, and she's excited to get on the floor with us, and it's going to be exciting because after this year, we'll graduate all of our island kids. So she's going to be our local kid, and everyone's going to want to see her develop. And like I said, making the jump from high school to youth sport is really difficult. So I think watching the growth of posts is usually the most fun. So she's going to be a lot of fun to kind of work with and kind of get to know better as an athlete.
You've talked a lot about there being a big jump between high school and playing at the post-secondary level. Give us a little bit of what you think an ideal off-season looks like before you go to university, whether it's down in the States, whether it's in Canada. What would you think would be the number one thing? You show up at camp and you have what? What's the thing that you need to make sure you got ready to go?
I think, again, it's just you got to go in with no fear, because honestly, there's no way to prepare yourself for the jump, whether it's U Sport or NCAA. I mean, my first, full disclosure, my first college workout, I fully fainted because I was so scared and it was so hard and I was not ready to run full football stadium stairs. I don't even have a football program at Claremont, so I've never seen a football stadium in my life. But, I think for me as a player, the biggest jump I ever made was when I joked with my teammates and I just thought, whatever, next time if I faint, at least I get to like move on to the next workout. It's done. The worst is over. And, it's funny then, but I realized in that moment, like once you break down that wall, and especially for coaches, the biggest thing is 70% of coaching is tapping into potential that's already there. You guys just don't pull it out. And a lot of it's not being pulled out is because there's a wall there. And the wall is just fear or, lack of buy-in or, whatever it is. And if you can take that down and just give it your all to your coaches, trust your teammates, trust the process, then there's really no beating a team. I always like to watch Arizona State, Charlie Turner Thorne. Do they do everything right necessarily? No. Do they get the top 10 recruits in the country? No. But they all buy into what she says. They all do it. They all do that 100%. So even if they're doing it wrong, you would never know. And they, absolutely shred teams. I used to hate playing against Arizona State. And I think, to me, that would be the most successful way to coach, is to get everyone to buy in. And I think that's all you can do as an athlete. That's all you can try to get to do as coaches, to get your players to kind of do.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's definitely a big step trying to get kids to believe in themselves. So that's a good point that you brought up there. Let's transition to the kids that we're currently talking to. What do you think? What are the characteristics that you find are very important when you're looking for players? So when you go into a gym and you're looking at kids, what are the things that you're actually, you got an eye on? Because, a lot of kids, they think it's, I got to score here, I got to do that. So I'm trying to see, is it the scoring or what is it? What are you looking for?
When people send clips and all that stuff, I think the highlight tapes are great, but you have to remember, the guy down the street that's just shooting hoop ball can put a hoop mixtape together. Like everyone can string together a good things of film. I want to see the whole game. What are you doing? Your coaches can tell me how you can score, your skill. And honestly, like I talk to Anthony all the time. People that talk to Anthony trust him and they know if he says you're a scorer, you're a scorer. So I don't think you need to sell yourself as, a scorer, a defender, or whatever to us. It's, showing your coaches what they can do so they can vouch for you in that. What I watch is kind of the in-between, the, point guards, how do you see the floor? How are you evaluating? What do you do when you're off the ball? What do you do when you're on the bench? What do you do when you make a mistake? That's a lot of what I look at, because when we recruit people, I recruit people for 5 years. It's not a 1-year thing and see how it works out. It's not we need a point guard, you emailed me, so I just kind of took you. It's a 5-year commitment both ways. So it's got to be a good fit all around. So, you could be the best point guard in the country, but if you're going to take down our culture, I'm not, I personally don't want to deal with it. And a lot of coaches will shake their head at me for it. But like I said, the people that I have on my team right now, the 14 that we have, they're mine, and I made promises to them for 5 years. So I'm going to make sure that I bring people in that are going to help those people rise. So, right now I think it's no secret that our program in particular is hurting for point guards. We only have one right now, and then we have Nicole coming in, and we look at, how do you look for your teammates? How are you evaluating in the full court pressure? Are you just trying to run through a press break, or are you kind of guiding your team through it? Are you listening to your coaches when you're struggling? Off the ball, do you pass and then you just stand there? I think a lot of that tells us as coaches as who you are as a person, who you are as a player, because even if you're not, I think Nicole's a really good example, and someone that you guys probably have seen more. Does she do everything right? No. Is she the best ball handler in the province? No, but she's after it all the time. If there's a loose ball near her, she's on the floor. When her coaches are talking to her, she's like eye contact all the time. She's nodding her head or she's asking questions. I could see that she was constantly engaged. And when she made mistakes, she wasn't hanging her head, but she wasn't being cocky about it. She was just a really good all-around person. And like I said, she wasn't necessarily the best person out on the floor, but we can teach you when you're here how to dribble through the legs or come off of the screen, but I can't teach you to be a good teammate. Can't really, when you get here, teach you to see the floor in a certain way. And same with posts. How you're reading and reacting to defenders, you got to kind of learn early, because we can teach you the hook shot, we can teach you the drop step. You got to kind of come in with that instinct of how to read defenses. So a bit of a broad answer and not all over the place answer, but I think all of it's the little things, really, because not a lot of people do the little things anymore. A lot of people are scoring, a lot of people are doing this, doing that, getting steals, but not a lot of people are high-fiving everyone every day. Not a lot of people are getting on the floor. Very few people are focused on defense, I've learned really quick. And not a lot of people actually know how to read and react against defenses without set offenses. And, the direction UVic is about to go is a pretty free, read the defense kind of offenses. We're going to go flex and Princeton, and I'm going to recruit people that know how to do that instinctively so that we can kind of play around with it.
For sure. I mean, what I heard was, you got to be a player that your coach likes to watch and likes to be around. And I think that's important for players to hear, because, coach is stuck with you for 5 years and you're stuck with them for 5 years. It's a mutual agreement you got to come to terms with. Last question. The time's flown by real quick. Let me ask you this: of the players on your team, what are they taking in class? Like, what are the things that people go to UVic to take in school?
It sounds like this would be everyone's answer, but it's not. We don't limit people to what they can take at UVic. Some people don't do that. Some coaches like to have a set, practices 3 to 6 or whatever that they have. It's dependent on the coach, and that limits what you can take. We don't do that. I don't believe in that as a coach. And I say that and it bites me in the butt every year, because we end up practicing at like 5 p.m. But at the end of the day, you're coming for an education, and that's what you need to leave with. So our girls are pretty all over the map. I think the one that most people gravitate to is kinesiology, and we have a program called health and recreation. Those two, I think, are just more for the kinesthetic learner. It's kind of how athletes learn, and it's more driven to what athletes kind of know. So I think it's what people. And our health and recreation program here at UVic is really unique, and I think you can kind of go the education route, you can go the health route, you can go kinesiology with it. I think that's why a lot of our athletes take it. And then we have some business people, we have a biochem coming in, we have a nurse coming in, we have philosophy, we have really everything under the sun. We have education's always a big one, I think, at every university, because I think it's just a universal need in Canada. So health and rec probably the focus, but we are definitely all over the map. And when I have to make practice times, it's not my favorite.
Very cool. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. The girls had a really good workout just before you jumped in. You know, it's cool for me to see somebody that looks like the kids that we have on our team, who's played the way that they've played, put in the time the way they put in the time, and is now giving back to the game as a coach. Very cool. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, when we get going, we'll be able to make it out to the island and come get a tour like we did last summer. But if not, thanks again. We'll be following you this year, and we'll talk soon.